fuel subsidy has been a protracted issue in Nigeria, and its removal has stirred widespread reactions. The federal government says it may set up a tripartite committee to discuss the demand of the organized labor for wage increases in the face of the hike in petrol prices. Speaking with newsmen in Abuja after a meeting with the Trade Union Congress, TUC, the government spokesman, Dele Alake, said TUC presented a list of demands to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. One of such demands is an increase in salary as well as review of the minimum wage. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Labour Congress decided to go ahead with its plan to start a nationwide strike on Wednesday unless government reversed the decision. Let's share some updates on the issue with you.
Nigeria's fiscal authorities at the public presentation of the 2023 budget earlier this year made it known that subsidy payments would stop by June. They added that just 3.36 trillion naira had been earmarked.
Leaders of the Trade Union Congress arrived for a crucial meeting with the federal government over the removal of fuel subsidies. This time, discussions between the federal government and the Trade Union Congress are fruitful, but still inconclusive, as further talks will continue on Tuesday. But the Trade Union Congress succeeded in putting a list of demands on the table for consideration by the federal government. The topmost of these demands is an increase in the national minimum wage.
Yes, the demands are so long, there are so many. There are so many. Part of it was the demand for a minimum wage. And we stated that for us, it is quite apt that the minimum wage today is not a living wage, as we all know. The value of the minimum wage since it was negotiated has plummeted to a very abysmal level as it is today. So we've, and topmost in our demand was clearly stated as well that for utmost good faith and in the interest of social dialogue, that they should revert back the pump price while discussion continues.
The federal government understands the consequence of a failure to meet the demands of the labor unions and has continued to hold talks. The demands of the Trade Union Congress will be presented to President Bola Tinubu as the federal government hopes to ward off a looming workers' strike.
Most important top priority on the list, which the government is also looking at very seriously, and the president has announced before, is the issue of the minimum wage, which the labor movement has demanded as a consequence of this removal of the consequential impact of the removal of subsidy. So government is looking at that, and Mr. President is most likely going to constitute a tripartite committee. That is the committee of federal government and including the states, then the organized labor on the other part, and the private sector. Now, this is a tripartite arrangement. It will be a committee that will study all the dynamics of a wage increase, the percentages, the numbers, and the categories that will be affected. So by Tuesday, when we come back to reconvene and meet with the TUC again, the labor movement, we should have very concrete items to present to the world.
President Tinubu and the Trade Union Congress seem to be on the same page regarding the increase in the national minimum wage. Still, the other demands presented for approval will determine how organized labor and the federal government will walk the tightrope of the removal of fuel subsidy. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, Julie, the update now, except something gives. The Trade Union Congress is ready to continue negotiation with the federal government. Yes. That is it. But the Nigerian Labour Congress, led by my friend Comrade Joe Ajero, is saying that go back to the status quo before we negotiate.
Yeah, but you see, it makes sense to always leave the door open for negotiation. What Ajero must realize is that he can still achieve his aim. What is the aim at the end of the day? Whether we like it or not, removal of subsidy is inevitable. We cannot.
Are we sure we all agree that this Congress, they all agree to that fact that, look, the devil in the room is the removal of subsidy?
Well, I did not hear him telling, when Peter Obi was campaigning all over the country and he said, look, once I come in, I will remove subsidy. I never heard Ajero say, you are saying rubbish, sir.
Okay.
I didn't hear him say. All the major presidential candidates campaigned on the basis that this subsidy had to go. This is something that can best be described just the way Peter Obi described it as organized crime. That's what it is. We leave people to be suckling on the teeth of subsidy for so long, turning themselves to billionaires at the expense of all of us. No one among those who are clamoring for strike will say that they do not know the harm that this subsidy regime is doing to us as a nation. They are aware that even the World Bank has warned Nigeria that it's either you let this subsidy go or you will be ready for bankruptcy. I don't think Ajero wants Nigeria to become another Greece in his lifetime. Neither will he want to see Nigeria become another Sri Lanka, even in the lifetime of his children. So whatever we do, we should take away sentiment. I admit that as labor leaders, they must find the best deal for their members.
The best deal.
The best deal is what the labor leaders must
find for.
Always. Yes, I give that to him. But you cannot be rigid. And I do not also believe that it makes sense to call out electricity workers. That would be very irresponsible. It is against the law.
Yesterday I was...
You know, they did it the other day and got away with it. During the military rule, some people tried to do, they did that. IBB put them in jail. So Ajero should not get electricity workers to join this strike because they are, it's just like telling the police.
It was the immediate past Secretary General.
Whatever he was. Yes. Whatever he was. He knows that such category of workers are not permitted by our law to go on strike. It's just like telling police to go on strike or the army to go on strike. They are in the same category of essential workers.
Can't afford to shut the national grid.
So you can't do that. Whoever does that, the full weight of the law should be visited on him. When they did that in Kaduna the other day and they were filming themselves, I said, what kind of irresponsible people are these? You even filmed yourself turning off the grid? Where does that happen? So Labour has the right to clamor for sweetener or anything for that matter that will cushion the effect. I am for that. I've been saying that, look, this is what ought to be done. But you can't insist that you will not even talk unless this is reversed.
The Nigerian Labour Congress is saying that, that the new administration would have carried us along at least before the public announcement and would have agreed on palliatives or whatever we want to do. So as a result of that, go back to the status quo. Do you agree with this line of argument?
Well, the first question I asked was the fact that are they aware that the regime was going to end of June anyway. That meant that for 1.5 years, we've known that this regime is going to... It was also end in January, if you remember. It was Buhari in his wisdom who decided to extend it till June. So unless you are telling me that...
When the PIA came, that should even be...
It's automatic. Are they telling me they are not even aware of the laws of the land that guides the removal of the subsidy in the first place? Because if you are putting everything on the new administration, you are only being clever by half. Because technically, whether Mr. Tinubu moves a finger or not, this subsidy will end. So that means the Labour itself has been sleeping on its duty for the last 6 months, not negotiating with the government that just went, on the inevitability of the subsidies removal that is coming 6 months down the line. something is not right here. Because you cannot wake up one day and tell me that a pregnant woman who's about to deliver, I've not told you she's pregnant. You have 9 months to know. So you cannot make plans as a husband for 9 months for a pregnancy to be delivered. Something is wrong somewhere. So it's either somebody is playing to the gallery or somebody just being mischievous.
We're always talking about palliatives. Scholar Willie Johnson, can you suggest to Nigerians realistic palliatives that the federal government can put on the table to cushion the effects of the removal of this subsidy?
Before we get to palliatives at all, let's look at the numbers on ground. First, Nigeria spent 3.6 trillion naira last year on subsidy. This year alone, between January and May, we've done, on the average, 3 billion naira. That's about 20 billion naira daily. And we know that this is killing the economy. If we have this money to pay, it is good. But Nigeria, we don't have this money. As a matter of fact, since last year, the NNPC has not been remitting. Why? Because every penny we make as a country goes back to subsidy payment. And the fact is this: if that was all, would have been fine. But NNPC says that all the income has gone into subsidy, yet we are still owing them 2.8 trillion naira. In 2022, from the Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria spent 96% of the entire income on paying debt. So the country is sinking further in debt crisis. Take, for example, the first quarter of last year. Nigeria made 1.6 trillion naira altogether in terms of revenue, income. And we spent 1.9 trillion for debt servicing, telling you that we needed to borrow to even service our debt. If we spend 96% of our entire income servicing debt, what that tells you is simple, that to pay salary, Nigeria is in trouble. We had to borrow to pay. Few months back, the governor of Edo State came out to tell us that if Nigeria is able to pay salaries from May this year, that it would be a miracle. And the top economists, they have told us that the main bane of our development, why Nigeria is sinking further, why we can't pay salary, why we cannot attend to infrastructure, is basically because of our consumption. And of course, I listened to you talking about the presidential candidate of LP that talked about moving Nigeria from consumption to production. And the largest consumption we are having as a nation is this subsidy. It is a no-brainer that it should go. Now, we are saying that we should have palliatives, but that would take measures that would take some time. I listened to the labor leaders saying that we should have everything in place, the palliatives in place first, and maybe the refinery working. Let me take your mind back to 2007. See, if I have a house and I have a back gate in my house, and I notice that this back gate has given access to criminals to come rob me each time, over time, consistently. And I said, let me close this gate completely. And I have a son who is saying that, don't close the gate. Now, I think I should suspect him. So let's look at what happened in 2007. Before Obasanjo left, he sold the refinery to Dangote then. And guess what? Yeah, for $750 million. He sold the Port Harcourt refinery and the Kaduna refinery. And what happened? The labor union, the workers, the union of the oil sector workers, they closed this nation down and insisted that that sale be reversed. OBJ said, the sabotage in the industry is much. We are spending money on refineries that aren't producing for us. And so he left the government, and Yar'Adua was held to ransom. He was forced to reverse that process, and we paid Dangote that money back. He simply took his money and got another opportunity today. He has, of course, the largest, single train refinery in the entire world. Now, can you imagine if the same union had not insisted on taking that refinery back, imagine what we will have today. So the process of producing the palliative was frustrated by the same people who are saying that do not remove subsidy. Now, you ask yourself, what exactly are we getting from the subsidy? Let me give you the numbers. Now, let me give you an example of the woman in the village. A household of, say, 6-person, family in the village. The mom, the dad, and perhaps 4 children. Now, the mother only goes to the market, maybe just once or twice in a week. Now, that's twice in that week. He takes 50 naira to the market, maybe 50 naira back. He ought to pay 100 naira toll and 100 back, no problem. But he does that twice. So she pays 200 naira, and not paying the, so that means the government is paying 400 naira, for her. That's for a family of 6. Now, let me bring you to the extreme high. Now, in that extreme high, the same family of 6 perhaps will be having, like, say, 8, 9, 10 vehicles. And these vehicles are V12 engine, V8 engine. And guess what? The man with his convoy will go out daily. The children, will cruise out with their friends. They burn fuel anyhow. The wife also goes out. At the end of the day, they have done, like, say, 100 liters, on that day. In a week, they have done minimum of, say, 600 to 700 liters. Now, in the entire week, he ought to pay, say, like 4 million naira on fuel. But, apparently, he's paying far low. So, invariably, when the government is paying millions on that man, government is only giving that poor woman maybe 500 naira max, or say 1,000 naira. So who exactly is profiting from this subsidy? It is the... No, sorry, hold on, please. Hold on, please.
I'll come back to you, Kola. Let's join. Moji Jami will be joining us. Kola, I will allow you to finish your analogy. And Moji Jami, because in all this, some Nigerians just discovered that, they started buying fuel at the filling stations for 500, 540. They don't understand what is going on. They don't understand the dynamics that, there's something that is subsidy. It's like too ranchy to some people. Some people don't understand it. And to some people out there, it is Bola Tinubu that has come with his own new regime. And that, this regime is hard. So can you tell us what is all this about?
I will start by talking about the viral video of the chief imam of Ogbomoso. I can't remember his name now, but his Friday's sermon 4 days ago, last Friday, was on fuel subsidy. And if we could have our traditional rulers telling the masses, the congregation, the truth, like the chief imam of Ogbomoso, then this country will be a better place, rather than for some of them to be predicting and telling Nigerians and telling their congregation what God never told them. The man broke it down. In fact, he was talking like a professor of economics in an Economics 101 class. Like talking to breaking it down to a first-year class of, Jambites in an economics class. He's saying that, he said, would you rather prefer a situation where about 100 or 200 people holds the country to ransom, taking the subsidy that 200 million Nigerians should be taking, and as if that is not bad enough, this same 200 Nigerian cabal, quote and unquote, enjoying this subsidy, will still take this same fuel across the border. The fuel they bought from NNPC at probably 160 naira per liter, and go and sell it across the border. They sell more than 40% of this fuel across the border to Cameroon, Niger Republic, Benin Republic, and Togo at about 600 naira per liter. They are still collecting subsidy from the federal government. Just about 200 of them. And these are the people, I don't want to believe this is true, fueling the NLC, telling them to go on strike. Now the Imam said, Tinubu campaigned that he was going to remove subsidy during his campaign. And when he got there, that was what he did. He said he never lied to us. And now, talking about the figures, I'm happy that the last speaker spoke about the figures. In 2012, the total amount we spent on subsidy was a mere 1.2 trillion.
Yeah.
Between January and now, we have spent 6.7 trillion naira on subsidy alone. The figures are there. And we have a national budget, a 2023 budget of 11.34 billion, which means we have spent half of the 2023 budget mid-year on fuel subsidy alone. Now, another worry to Nigerians and to some of us is the fact that what subsidy is taken from us and that is going to this fuel cabal is more than the provisioning for both, education, health, and even defense combined in the budget. So it's going to be painful in the beginning. In fact, I'll go back to that Imam again. The Imam said we should all go back to when mobile telephoning started in Nigeria, that we were buying SIM cards for 30,000 naira, which is a fact. Today, SIM cards, you can get it for 100 naira, from 30,000 naira to 100 naira, because the market was deregulated. Now, what is going to happen to fuel subsidy or to fuel regime in Nigeria, that I presume is the fact that, yes, we are buying at between 440 and 448 and 537 today, because they have been telling us that we are consuming 100 million per day. But in the last 1 week, average consumption has come down to between 50 and 60 million per day, because they can't take it to Benin Republic again. It is no more profitable. So with time, by the time we all realize that subsidy is no more in the game, then...
All right, MJ. Thank you, MJ. Thank you for that intervention.